All set?
Really good.
Okay. So third week is always the ALC, but beforehand, I want to start with bucket fills and things that are happening in your life that are good. Who wants to start?
I will.
Oh, Derek.
I want to fill Leah's bucket. Leah had a great closing at the end of last week, her biggest sale ever.
Nice.
Like $1,150,000.
Nice.
Congrats.
And she's still taking the stairs.
And she's still taking the stairs.
See, positives all around. Nice job. All right, who else?
I'm doing a walkthrough for an off-market property that I'm putting together, so
Ooh,
learning.
nice work.
Very cool.
Who else? Oh,
Michelle agreed to work with me.
oh, she agreed. And she just goes, oh,
Right out. Downside to everything.
you know, as long as the positives outweigh the negatives, you're all good. Maddie, what were you gonna say?
I got my VA buyer under contract, and then we had our listing.
Nice job.
I didn't see myself last night, and I did it right because Stacey got my number, so that felt really good.
You were like, hey, that was like reassurance, like, I'm good, I'm getting there. Nice.
And Paige's the master number guy.
I know, so that felt very good that I at least know I'm in the right. ballpark.
Yeah. Awesome. Rick.
Well, this last weekend, I went on a motorcycle trip with my friends for 4 days. And while I was gone, Jordan Wally stepped up and worked on a weekend for like the first time in her life. But she put an offer together for a client. It's actually a client's dad who's buying a house for his son, so our client's brother. So she put that together, got it negotiated, got it accepted. She's getting a nice little bump on that one. So it was great to have some support. Well, thank you.
Nice. What else? Gina has something, says Chris.
What? Oh, our listing went under contract.
You know, when you're like, yeah, I mean, our listing went under contract, that seems like something that's good.
No, it's exciting. It's exciting. It's
That's
exciting.
super awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice work. Does the ALC have anything good going on?
Derek did.
Derek did. Anybody else? My daughter won the USA Cup and that was really
Bring it back down for us.
like, you know, told I was too aggressive on the sideline, so that was also a positive.
It is the
Or
USA
in
Cup.
fight with the opposing.
Did you just say what is? the
I know,
USA
I was
Cup?
just like,
That is the second largest youth tournament in the entire world.
and it is
Conquered.
amazing.
And it is in the world. There's only one bigger in the entire world. It's in Europe, obviously. But it is, they have, my parents used to be the responsible for everything other than soccer there. They ran all the activities
Yeah, I was
for
like,
years. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it's impressive because it's in Blaine. So the National Sports Center bought all of the sod fields in Blaine and converted it to fields. So they've got what, almost 40 fields there now?
54.
54 fields. Yeah, and they've got
Maybe even more than that. I know that.
2,000
50,
something
50
teams
something.
come from all over the world, from Japan, from Sweden, from Russia.
Yep,
And then
opening
you can,
ceremony.
And she scored.
yeah, you can homestay teams and stuff. It's incredible. Like you can say, why my team, you get a discount if you say my team is gonna, host the team from Russia. And so they all stay at your house and you get to know them and stuff. It's really cool.
It's really
To
fun.
be clear, that did not happen at my house. All the things did not have an entire soccer team at my house.
He's posted the Thailand squad.
There is no discount that would make that happen at all. Or they'd be like bumped up in here. I'd be like, hey guys, guess what we're doing?
Office space for you.
No, but it's like, it is, it's a really cool event and it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks long essentially, because it's every age group, like boys,
So it's
girls.
basically
It
like,
was It was started by an organization in Minnesota called the Sons of Norway. So that, I mean, it's really
It's
cool.
big. It's like a huge, yeah, it's a huge deal, a really huge deal. And they get pins that they like
Trade.
So it's kind of like a youth World Cup.
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
opening ceremonies,
Yeah.
like
Like she went
trade
up on
stuff.
stage to get the cup, like, and they got medals with it, yeah. Like it was an actual like ceremony in which I didn't get to go to because I was taking the other one to
A Loons
another soccer
game.
game. Yeah, a Loons game, which that was awesome, which she also got to like talk to all the players and they gave her like high fives. And as a 9-year-old, she was like that. She's like, like her eyes were like this big. And she's like, they touched me. They touched me. I was like, I know, me too. No, I was kidding.
There's something really, really fun related to that. My parents, my dad, came up with something called the match game. So each team gets just, I don't know how you say it, but they get 2 players on their team that get identified. Those 2 players then can go and find another player from another team that they've been matched with. And it was a boy and a girl. They were trying to cross, just match people and get them to meet other teams. So like a team from Prior Lake, Minnesota, the guys would get together and like, well, we have to go meet this Swedish girl named whatever, and she's playing at this time. And so they would go, and if those 2 came back to the activities tent, they would get a free t-shirt, super cool t-shirt,
So they
USA
were like trying to
t-shirt.
match make at like 8.
Yeah, so
I'm like,
it was
thank goodness that does not happen now.
I know, with the
You are
9
not matching with some
Well, the whole idea
wherever
is
and then flying
those
wherever.
teams would go and like the teams would go and watch the other teams specifically because they could get a
Yeah.
prize for connecting with people. So yeah, it is an impressive way for the kids to get together. It's really cool.
Beth says that she worked at that tournament, had a game with a Russian team, a Japanese ref, another ref from Spain, and it was wild.
Who
See,
said that?
look, this is such a
That's all
positive. Maybe
cool.
we all just go next year.
Should you play?
Yeah, that's always the hottest week.
It is
Yeah.
super hot. It was so hot. We ended up getting a tent and we
We
sat
won
underneath
Division
the tent.
B
It was
once.
great. All right, anything else that's good? Anybody wants to share? All right, then we're gonna go through a few other things before the ALC portion starts. Everyone that was here got their full tab, is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. All the prizes are ordered and I don't know if they're in yet, right? They're not in yet. Okay, so here are the people that got full tabs as well. So if you're not here, come and grab them. Because there's some pretty big numbers here. Jacob, you got 30. I don't know if he's on or not, but he got 30 full tabs.
The only
So
way to get full tabs, if you're not here when you give them away, is listing, correct?
listings, adding someone to your
Oh.
downline or a warm referral to me of another agent.
That warm referral, that's pretty, not too hard to do. I mean, you could reach out to anyone you've just done a deal with and give
Well,
them
and
the
with
chance.
some of the new trainings that are coming up, even introducing that agent as a warm lead for me to invite them to some of these events, that counts, right? So if you know of anybody that wants to go to any of the trainings and you're going to it as well, or even if you're not, shoot me a message with that and share those events. And you earn on that too.
So what if?
So if you have a winner on the full tab, you put your name on it and then you give it to Katie and she's gonna put it into the bucket for either the grand prize, the silver prize, I don't know how we have it.
Yeah, if you have a level 1 or 2, you are in a group of 6 to be able to win the large Yeti cooler. If you have a level 3 or 4, you're in a group of 10 to win the Yeti bucket with accessories. If you have a level 5, there's 300 level 5. So chances are if you get a full tab, you might get one. You're going to be one of 10 winners that will win additional things like
Gift
Gift
cards,
cards,
yes, gift
yeah.
cards.
And it'll always have a little yellow box that says your prize level on it, so you can just bring that to me and have your name on it.
Awesome. All right, so one of the events that you can invite people to is next week we have our regional event. So it's not just us. The region is bringing in Matt Sutter to do kind of who, how, and why, going from 0 to 400 units. He is a coach with Glover University. So if you guys are familiar with that, he's coming from there. He also does kind of personalized coaching, usually does wealth building a lot, but also had a team of his own and market center, I believe. So this one is next Wednesday. It's 9 to 5. There are tickets required for that, and you can just register on Eventbrite. And then if you end up introducing an agent to me, I will send them all that information as well. Does anyone have questions on this? This one is going to be, I mean, if you guys know, the last 3 months, all we've been talking about is units. Like units. So if you feel like your units are down or they're not where you want them to be, I highly suggest you going to this event. If you are unable to make it to Mega Camp or any of the other things, these are the type of trainings that are well worth it in regards to taking one piece of it and executing it to increase your units and your sales. And that's going to be really important in the next 6, 12, 18 months. Who signed up for this already? Ashley?
How much is it?
$99, I think. I'm just curious, and again, if we are not at a certain unit number, and I know what most people's units are at, what is the thing holding us back from going to an event like this? Is it because it's all day?
My daughter's baby.
You don't count Colleen with that. I'm like, Colleen.
But other than birth, I'd be there.
And the reason I asked that is because in the last meeting, right, it was like, we want to know scripts, we want to know how to do things, we want to plan, right? This is where you learn the plan. And then, you know, when we have like 0 people from our market center sign up for a training where it's someone that actually went from 0 to 400 units, I ask myself if you're being honest with me, that you want to know a plan or you want to do those things. So that being said, I'm not going to keep pressing that, but this is a great event that I believe anyone and everyone in this market center should be at. This info is on every place that you could potentially find. It's on our Instagram, it's on Facebook, and there's 4 emails that have been sent out. I could text it. Katie's probably going to send out another one. There's an Eventbrite link that you can click right on. And the region is sent out, because this is actually a regional event. They've sent out information as well. Correct? Okay. All right. Then we have Mega Agent interview. This is going back to just our Butler Group trainings. That's tomorrow with Pam Kerber. It's going to be in the Edina Market Center, and it's also via Zoom. And then because of this regional event, we are no longer having a cookout next week, and we will not have a team meeting because I will be at that particular event on Wednesday. And then on Tuesday, I will also be at the leadership portion of it. And then Thursday morning, this same presenter is actually going to be in our market center for a private event for the top 10%. So he's going to be around here training for 3 different days. So we're kind of going to, the office is going to be in and out of trainings for next week. Cool. Then we've got Mega Camp. So I know that Kevin was going to try to make it here because he still has a house. We've got some people committed to that, but that's August 23rd and 24th. So if you're still interested, feel free to sign up for that and reach out. If it's something that you want to stay in, I think he's got quite a few bedrooms left or like spaces left in that particular, yeah. And it's got a pool. It'll be fun. Any questions regarding Mega Camp? Awesome. All right, then do I hear a motion to start the ALC meeting?
Gotta figure that out.
Ooh.
Hoping to.
Oh,
I can't.
whoa, Derek was ready to go in here. All right, here we go. Okay, so per usual, we always start out with the book and kind of the ahas that we got from that. I always like Derek look at Jelena and he's like, I forgot to read the book again. So we're now on the 7th month and
I can contribute another way.
Very much so. We appreciate you.
This is like CE. Remember when we made fun of CE? Let's start chapter 8 tomorrow.
I learned my lesson with CE one time, and I never had to learn that lesson again.
Okay, so we'll start with Jelena's ahas because we know that she has read the chapter.
This chapter was, I don't know. There was definitely some great takeaways in this chapter. It was all about strategy and how to create a strategy, and that your strategy needs to stem from your mission and it all needs to be cohesive. Otherwise it won't work. I guess the biggest takeaway I took, and now I don't have the book in front of me and I don't have it memorized, was that there are kind of 3 things that we look for in a strategy, and it's I don't know. What were the 3 things? Does anyone know?
There was 4 things. I
Oh, it's
thought.
4 things. The first, you're just sitting there
I'm
laughing.
because I'm just, this is an opportunity of growth for all of us right now.
I thought this chapter was
Go ahead, take it away.
very, it was like a twist on a SWOT analysis is what my takeaway was. Which a SWOT analysis is looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats to your business, and they called everything a little different thing, but that's essentially what this chapter was about. And then applying that to your vision. Your strategy on how to achieve your vision.
Well, and I would agree with that, right? So when we're talking about, we kind of dove into goals last week of where are we at mid-year? And I think anyone in their business can use this, right? Where are we at mid-year? What has either allowed us to hit the goals? What's allowed us to not hit the goals? What needs to change? And with strategy, obviously you have the threats and you have, okay, great. Interest rates are going up. Commercial lending is getting a little bit tighter, right? So with that being said, how do you still keep your business moving forward at the same level that you were intending to, right? Without either moving something of your goal, like lowering it, but at that point in time, also, your income's going to lower. So, that's kind of what this whole chapter is about. And I think even though this one was probably a little bit more stale than most of them, it's actually one that is incredibly important right now where the real estate market is. If you were going to apply that, right, and we've talked about it, some of the goals we're not hitting this year right now. And in order for that to happen, you either have to double what your pipeline looks like, or you have to be okay with where it's at and, let it ramp up for next year, right?
So the essence of strategy comes with 3 different pieces. And the first one is, what are your big bets? Like, what are you going to actually bet on? What are you going to go all in on and make happen? And then the second piece of that is protecting your flanks. And maybe it's our financial spending. Make sure that we protect as we're moving forward on focusing on the big bets or the strategies or the lead generations that we're going to have. And then capitalizing on our victories. And when we have those, how do we expand and make those into more? And so I thought that applied to real estate very well.
And I think that's huge right now, because I think that capitalizing on the victories when you have a larger goal that, that's really a stretch goal for you that you feel like is almost unattainable, having the victories along the way, right? Because if you're not saying like celebrating, hey, I had 10 closings this month, but my goal was to have 100 in a year and I'm behind, that's not going to help you in the end. Like, let's celebrate that month, right? For me and this market center, every month is a new month, right? So we could bring in 10 agents in June and July 1st hits and it's like, great, what are you going to do in July? Right? So we as a leadership team celebrate those pieces. And when you think about threats and kind of keeping an eye on what's the growth portion, as well as for us, it's retention, right? So I was just reviewing all of our regional numbers of market centers, and there's some market centers that have already grossed 83 agents. And that's just half a year, right? These market centers are a lot larger than us, and their net is like 2018 or 22. So great, they've grossed 83 and their nets, 22. We've grossed 32 and our net's 15. Right? So our retention is really, really high. And those that we've lost this year are going on ice. We've lost 1 capping agent. And that's because the person got out of the business. Like, it wasn't even like they transferred to another office. They got out of the business completely. So when you look at that looks very different, right? So the gross agents are great. All these other offices are amazing. And this is how you guys can compare yourself with other agents too. Cool, they're doing 300 transactions But you know what? Maybe their sales prices are not, maybe they're not taking the same amount of commission, maybe their P&L isn't there. So it's such a wide scope when you look at strategy. Anything else from that chapter?
For strategy in general. I added something about the previous chapter.
Yeah, you totally can.
I'm sorry, I'm behind. I forgot I missed last month. But that chapter was about discipline, which I'm sure you guys talked about in great length last time.
That's a perfect
but-
topic right now.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of my takeaway from that though, was just like, it's really important to have disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. And I can speak for myself and say that I'm less than disciplined this year, because last year didn't require a lot of it, we're all being honest, right? And so getting back into those like purposeful and focused habits and action, like being disciplined has been really tough. And now we're more than halfway through the year, but like, I feel like I'm finally getting a little bit of traction and momentum. And so that was good for me to read.
And if we're all being really honest, discipline becomes a lot easier when you're in a situation where you're like, oh crap, right? Because now all of a sudden, now it's important. Like now the discipline's important because now I need this. What's difficult with discipline is when it's like it can place and I feel okay, I'm comfortable, right? At that point in time, discipline becomes incredibly difficult, right? Like, okay, I'm doing a great business, it's still coming in, it's rolling in, and then all of a sudden, until the bank account goes down, you're like, oh, lead gen should probably start happening again, right? Or whatever area of life discipline ends up showing up in. I think that's a fair point though. And I think right now, a lot of people are feeling that. I don't think most businesses that are like real estate businesses right now have been disciplined in the last 18 months. Would you guys agree with that? I mean, I even those that have done amazing business have allowed others, buyers, whatever, to kind of set their schedule and rule what their business looks like. Because there was a lot of buyers out there. There was a lot of business. There still is a lot of business. It's just different. It's different. It's bringing knowledge. It's not just like random people falling in your lap all the time. And there's like buyers are a little bit more like standoffish right now, right? Because they want the knowledge to be able to make an appropriate decision.
I think with like where we are in the year, obviously over halfway through the year, and recognizing that maybe the discipline hasn't been where either it should be or it needs to be or you'd like it to be. Recognizing it now and doing something about it now is an opportunity that I think that a lot of people won't end up doing. I think they'll end up riding it until probably like maybe mid-September or something like that. And at that point, I would still argue that the year's not over yet. And yet I wouldn't be surprised if that's the point in time where people start reaching that moment like, oh, you know what? This is a problem. And it's either I'm going to start selling some real estate now, or I need to find something else to do to make money.
And that approach feels very different. In September, when you're like, I'm going to start selling real estate now, that conversation, when you're cold calling or talking to, your sphere, you're like, it sounds desperate. It doesn't sound like you're coming from a place of like, hey, I'd like to help you. It's like, no, I need business and I need business now. So can I are you ready to buy or sell? Right? It just comes off in a different way when you need it versus it's just your business daily. All right, that being said, let's go through numbers. Who wants to start with theirs?
I will.
Eric.
So I reviewed before I walked in here, and I changed our goal for the year, and I set a point that's just above, or that's $50,000 above break even in terms of profitability. And
For the year?
For the year.
Okay.
And I did that because I wanted something that I felt was like very honestly achievable. And at this point, we are just over 50% of the way there in terms of total GCI for the team. Fortunately, we have been able to put some business together here recently and have some other stuff in the pipeline that's good. And Ashley mentioned momentum before, and I've been struggling this year chasing the I would say like chasing larger commissions from marginally motivated people, or maybe people whose motivation isn't at like an 11.5 or something like that, like where they have to do this. And it's resulted in numerous near misses on big commission type opportunities. And that's been very frustrating for me. And as I've like really gotten back into things, I know that momentum is not based on selling 6 $2 million houses in a year. I mean, that's great if you can do that. But that is, to me, that isn't momentum. Momentum is turning units, selling whatever houses to whoever needs to buy right now or needs to sell right now. And that's the stuff that's going to get the gears turning. So I've been focusing on finding the motivated.
Well, and it keeps you energized, right? If it's like
For
one
sure.
deal
For
a month sometimes, right? That's like, okay, cool, that's one. But if you've got 4 or 5 going at a time or more, that's energizing.
Right.
It's like, okay, what's next, right? At that point in time, like that creates no momentum because
Right.
it just keeps going. And then when you only have 2 a month or 1 a month, you're like, what's going on? And that's where you'll notice, oh man, I had free time that month.
Right. And I don't mean to like push down 6 $2 million sales, because that's awesome. And I just don't feel like that is really creating energy and momentum in your business, especially if one of them or 2 of them end up being very near misses. And that can be very detrimental. So whereas, you know, with the smaller deals, you just get going. And when I know for me, when I'm like in the throes of battle and like showing houses and writing contracts and going on listing appointments and like when I have a full schedule, it feels better and it just feels like I'm in production. So.
So we evaluated our goals and decided if we needed to adjust them or not last month. And I adjusted my goals by half, so my unit goals, and strictly for the reason that I am not been in production or heavy production for the first half of the year. Part of that discipline for the last 18 months, transactions kind of fell into your lap, and that's what happened. And I was not disciplined. About a month ago, we kind of made the commitment to start lead generating more consistently. And so I took an average of 2020 and 2021 and what I did for the second half of the year. And that's kind of how I set my goals for the rest of this year. I will end, if I meet my goals, more than I had in units for 2020, but quite a few less than 2021. Which you can't have your best year every year, but I mean, going forward, would like to strive to make it, you know, closer to my best year every year, which means I need to be more disciplined. So as of right now, August is the first month that I have been on track for what I should be for this year.
Closing.
Yep, for closing this year.
And what is projected for August?
Oh, 3.
Okay. And then where are you at profit wise?
I am for my goal far below where I should be, just because I've only done 7 transactions this year when I should have been at 30 currently.
I want everyone that's listening to this, like, this is a really hard thing to do in front of people, right? To be really transparent about your goals and then really transparent about why or why not you're hitting them. So whenever you see them in the hall or wherever, just realize that this is not an easy thing to do in any way, shape, or form, even if you're like killing it, because there's things that you can learn from that too. If you're crushing your goal at the same time, what's falling through the cracks? Probably something, because now there's room for growth of what kind of support systems do you need, or what are the transactions that you might have lost. So as you're taking this in and they're telling you about their businesses, just this doesn't happen everywhere. This actually does not happen in most places. So take it and learn from it. And also, I mean, it's part of sharing so that not like nobody else makes the mistakes, right? We all fail forward, and we all do it at different times. And we make decisions, you know, whether or not it's vacationing or I've been there. So thank you guys for doing this, because I know it's not like the easiest thing to do. So grateful for that. Right.
So far this year for me, I've closed 16 units, which is about 122,000 GCI. My net take home has been about 98,000 so far this year. I do have 2 pretty substantial transactions under contract right now. Between the 2 of them, it totals 170 in GCI. So I'm on track to have a really good year. And then I've got a couple that are lease deals that are pending as well. Half the lease deals I've closed this year, I haven't got paid on it because there's construction involved. So I'm having to budget until a couple of these big ones close, but I'm having a pretty good year. And I would like to echo what Derek said about just number of units. For me, that makes me a lot more confident. Like these bigger deals that close, they really help my year a lot, but having that constant deal flow, the 16 units I've closed so far this year, that holds me over, fills in the potholes until the bigger ones close. So for me, my focus has been for prospecting, go after the bigger stuff, and typically the smaller stuff sort of falls in my lap. I'm not actively seeking that out, but that is that's probably 75% of my total units is smaller transactions, and then the 25% really make it a really good year.
Well, and I think that's a great point. Like when Derek's saying, you know, $2 million, whatever your high price points are. Awesome. Do 6 and then fill in the gaps, right? Do those 6. Maybe that's your goal. I want to do 6 $2 million properties or $1 million plus. And then fill in with whatever other price point with, you know, 4 units of something that's underneath that. Because that's absolutely doable. Awesome. All right, Ashley.
So looking at my year over year numbers, it's been kind of a like conundrum, because so far this year I've done better than I had last year by this time. However, my second half of the year last year was just gangbusters, and I don't have that pipeline, you know, going into it this year. So, you know, in examining it, it looks at first glance, it looks like, oh, I'm doing better than I did last year, but I know it's not the, you know, not the reality. And so I think just kind of touching again on the discipline, I mean, what everybody else has already said, it's just really getting back into those productive habits and productive actions, which, you know, has been tough. Like this year, just, you know, to be honest, really want to like people with my kids, and, like, just enjoy time with them, and so it's all harder to spend a lot more time lead generating, you know, than I had been before. It feels like more of a chore. And so I've been trying to think about what are the things that get me excited? Like, what are the things about, or what types of lead generation like make me excited, that I enjoy doing? I need to get back to those things, and remember that that's what's brought me business in the past, you know, versus trying new things and, you know, trying what everybody else is doing. So for me, that's like posting and, you know, doing events and things like that. So the year in my calendar of like, okay, who can I invite over? Which neighbors haven't they met yet? I moved to their home last year. Who haven't I met yet? How can I get connected? What are other things that I can do to get my name out there in the area that I live, and things like that. Like I enjoy meeting new people. So that's my focus for the rest of the year, and trying to get. I am getting more disciplined in being purposeful about that.
When we talk about discipline, I think about, we're all our own boss right now, right? Like you could wake up and do nothing in the day and no one's gonna fire you. Probably not even your clients, because you could say you were doing something or taking off. If you were to hire yourself in the first half of the year, how long would have it taken you to fire yourself because of performance? I'm asking that in general.
I mean, probably not very long, right? Like, I think I've been really honest that I, just it was kind of lax.
So as we go into this second half of the year, what's going to change with that? Like, if you were to wake up every day and be like, okay, what do I need to do today that I could keep my job if I actually had a boss that was not myself? Because I think we allow ourselves more grace a lot of times than what we think, right? In regards to like what you should be doing in a day, or the, I don't want to say excuses, but the reasons why we don't lead gen, or the reasons why things aren't happening the way that they are, right? And I'm all about having fun and traveling and all of the other things. I'm curious on how that mindset shift for the second half of the year is going to happen, like on a daily basis for everyone, me included.
It's funny because I often, after a productive killed it, and I would hire me today, or I'd keep me on staff today. But I never say that when I don't have a productive day. And so making sure that I hold myself accountable on all days instead of just the good ones, and acknowledging those.
I mean, what if that was like a daily thing at the end of the workday where you're going to bed and you rate yourself like, would I still have my job today? And I think we would all be shocked if we did that over a month period of time on how many days out of, what is it? Probably 20, maybe 21 actual business work days. How many would you actually hire yourself?
Is that like a rhetorical?
No, that's like a real question, right? Like, if you were to think of that moving forward, I think there's a lot of days that people would be like,
We'll report next month.
Right.
and I think it's interesting because as a lot of agents are, very high D, they're entrepreneurial, and when they want something done and they hire someone, they want it done, and you better do it now. Whether or not it's a contractor, it's an admin, it's whoever it is, and they have those standards for those people. But yet when we reflect on ourselves, those standards might not be the same.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, out of 20, there might be 5 that like I would literally hire myself back to show up the next day. And that's been a problem. That's been a problem for this year for me. In the past, I've been insensitive to other people's outside stuff that they have going on that distracts them from doing maybe what I'm able to do when I'm plugged in on myself, right? And coming through a year where I've had, my focus has been on a whole bunch of other stuff. And then I sit here now and I'm like, man, why am I not where I want to be? And I look back and I'm like, because when I had been here or plugged in, like, I'm not like the Energizer Bunny when I'm plugged in. I'm just here, and that's where it's been a challenge for my focus, because my focus has been everywhere else. And I still have a bunch of stuff planned for the next 60 days that's not here. So that means I can't be a 50% player when I'm here. I need to be like 125% player when I'm here. So just something I've thought about, which
That's
is,
fair,
yeah, right.
really fair.
I don't know how some people do it. I don't know how any of you have kids. I'd be a mess. Seriously.
We just are a mess.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'll buy that. Right?
I mean, mine Instacarted food to the office yesterday without me even knowing, so. There's that.
I need to get Linus an Instacart account.
Yeah. I mean, anyone else on that piece of it, right? Because I think that's the shift. I mean, we can reflect all day long on why we haven't hit a goal, but what moves you forward is what's going to shift in your mindset, which then is going to shift into your actions. And you're going to want to hire, like, if you aren't wanting to hire yourself at least 50% of the time, we've got to figure out why. Is it because you aren't enjoying what you're doing? Are goals something that you aren't even really plugged into? Like, there's other reasons why you aren't showing up then.
Stop looking at me, I'm done. I thought you were looking at me.
No, I mean, that being said, we can go through some of the numbers too for the market center, which some of our goals we've hit, some of our goals we have not hit. And there's positive and negatives in the business as a market center as well. So in regards to, agent productivity this month, you were at 40%, which is actually an increase from months before, which is huge. We want to be 40% or higher. I mean, honestly, I would like it quite a bit higher. One, we have agents that are getting into production, and two, the agents we're bringing in are either producing agents or getting into production quickly, and those that are not have now taken and iced their license, right? So it's twofold, right? Where the people that weren't producing, we can take those out of the numbers, makes that one a little bit higher. Number of agents though taking a listing is still 22%. That's incredibly low for, in regards to percentage of how many agents are actually taking listings. As we saw though last month, there's quite a few more individual agents that are taking listings versus teams. Obviously our office is very team heavy in general with who's taking listings. So the more and more individual agents that we can get doing that number will go up. Total GCI income was 1.3 million. And then in regards to profit share, and we went over this number before, we were at 8,707. I believe though the year before that we were at like 22 potentially.
For just profit share?
Just for profit share, yeah.
That was a little.
However, I mean, in regards to profit share for this month being, that was what, June?
14.
We were 6 months in to the cap reduction. The play for that cap reduction was 18 months to get back to normal, quote unquote normal, or where we were at to be at goal again. And we're actually kind of tracking on that fairly well. In regards to the company dollar that we brought in projected. So when we talk about that, that's an agent coming in, we assign whether or not they're a capper, a half capper, is at what, $125,000 of projected company dollar that we brought in this year of new agents. I don't think in a year we've ever brought in more than 55. And that's halfway through the year.
And
So that's huge.
That's net too. That's what taking out the company dollar we lost.
Yep, so that's net company dollar in. So as you look forward, right, as we look at written contracts for the agents business, that's kind of also what we look at is not just gross, the gross 32 agents, net 15. We also look at, okay, what's the potential company dollar that is net is coming in. So that's just going to keep growing over the next, 3, 6, 12 months. Does anybody have questions regarding those numbers? All right. Do you guys want to discuss anything else? Otherwise, we can open it up. We can shut down the ALC part of the meeting and open it up to wants and needs or anything else that's happening in the market. All right.
I think we're good.
Here, a motion to end the ALC meeting.
I'll move to end the ALC meeting.
All right, do we have anything as agents that you want to talk about that you heard in this, or talk about things that are going on in the market right now? We got 10 minutes to kind of like mastermind on things that are happening. Oh, Heather.
I was just kind of thinking, I was noticing when Derek had said that he's looking for the people right now, like the people with a higher urgency or that they're ready to go now and working on the units. Is there something you do specifically to figure out who's ready to go now? Is it?
I'd say first, I just try to talk to more people specifically, and I'll transition from in my system from making follow-up calls to just flat out blanket calls or calling new people. Because when I'm making follow-up calls, that's a list of, they should be warm leads. And I've found that those warm leads, they're just that. They're not motivated people, or at least by and large haven't been motivated.
What's a question that you asked to find motivation? Right, motivation and timeline, because that's what we talked about even, 2 meetings ago is timeline and motivation.
Right.
Because someone might be really motivated to move on to Lake Minnetonka, but their timeline is 12 months. So it's
Right.
like, you can be consistently looking, but would they be ready to act in a month if you found it? Or are there steps that need to be taken, you know what I mean? So what is it, how do you figure that out with potential?
I asked them, if we found the right house for you today, would you buy it? And they'll give me their response. I mean, and that's something. If we found you the right house today, would you be able to buy it? Are you pre-approved? Do you need to sell your house? Do you have cash? Like, what does that look like? And that's actually been like a scenario that I have with a lot of my people. They might have access to either the cash or the ability to pay cash or bridge or something. And yet a lot of them are bringing me like, well, you know what? I think this one's cool. I'd like to make an offer on that. Let's make it contingent on the sale of our house. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's go ahead and do that. And then they're like, okay, well, let's think about it. And then the next day I get a notification that there's multiple offers on the house. And then you're like, well, okay, so that's the situation. So if they're motivated, they're putting their house on the market and we're then becoming that contingent buyer.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I liked what you said in response to Derek's concern about, yeah, for real. And in response to Derek's concerns about the price range and focusing on large. And I agree with it. First of all, I agree with Derek. You should not have just $1 million plus properties in your cache because they could take a long time and a little bit more risky as far as the potential to sell smaller market, all of that. At the same time, I think it's extremely important for our development as, first of all, it's at this market center and also as agents to diversify those price ranges because, in doing more luxury business now the last couple of years, I've learned crystal clear that there is an exorbitant and an extremely high quantity of very, very wealthy people in Minnesota. There's a lot of them. And the point is that they all need good representation. A lot of them are connected to people in the past and they're getting moderate representation. We have learned to do better and it's our responsibility to get out there in the market and take those listings. They are different. It is different, but there's so many people in the office that have got kind of a balanced, there's a lot of people here have got a balanced set of price ranges. And I think it can be tremendously advantageous because you're going to learn both ends of it. You're going to learn first time home buyer, which now I'm going back to because this is still age me, but my clients' kids are buying houses. What in the frick is going on? So first time home buyers to somebody who's buying their 7th house and they have 3 already, so it's good to have that diversity. So I like what you said.
Well, I think with representation, you make a great point with, there are some agents that only do luxury, right? And in my opinion, that's not doing anyone any favors, because if you're only working in a specific market, you don't really know what's going on in the housing industry in general, right? And I know many agents that are like that, where it's like, they wouldn't know what a $500,000 or a 250, they wouldn't know what to do in that situation. They wouldn't even know how to like write an offer for it. So diversifying that just to be able to have the knowledge is huge, because then you can give the best representation to any price point.
So we sold exactly to that point. We sold a house for a client in Maple Grove. It was 550. It was the house next door to where the Zerks grew up. Craziest thing. So 550 before they told us that they have a house in Eden Prairie that we have listed for $3 million. They didn't tell us that at all. They just said, sell this house. And so we had to do what we normally do at 550 before we earn the opportunity to learn that they've got a much bigger house. Or something like that, right? So it's a good opportunity to be in both markets for
They're
sure.
normal humans, like they brush their teeth, they do all the things
Of
we
course
do.
they are,
Like,
yeah.
I think we get this in our mind that these people that are in the luxury market are like different. The only reason they're different in your mind is because they want knowledge. They want specifics. They want to know what they do, whatever they do in their life, they know, and they're specific and they're professionals at it, right? Sometimes, and someone might get offended by this, and I'm actually not going to apologize, we feel self-conscious because we don't know if we are being professional enough for them. That's not on them. That's a huge, like, you look in the mirror and you ask yourself, am I a real estate professional? Am I going to provide them what they want? And am I going to provide that to the level of service that they would need? That's what's holding you back. It's not them as a person and how they're different. It's you.
You're exactly right. It is a matter of perspective. It really is a matter of perspective. We have a client buying a house at 3 million right now. Big price, huge price, like overly excited, right? Well, the seller of that property is building a house that's almost done in Lake Minnetonka that's somewhere between 45 and 55 million. That's a big number, but it's all perspective. So we're thinking this 3 is this big number. Oh, he's building a house for 50 million. You know, so it is, and you look at it, you're like, oh, I'm selling a house at 300 and now I got to sell one at 900. It's just perspective. They're all people, they're all houses. They're all, you know, we just have to do an extraordinary job at each price range and adjust accordingly. But we know the job, you know, and you can do it.
There's nothing that's different. Like, it's a shell of a house and you need a piece of land. Usually when it's a higher price point, the piece of land is more expensive, right? Because of where the location is. And then the shell is built, and then everything that's put on the outside and the inside are the bells and whistles. We overcomplicate all of this. Why? Because you bring your own emotion into it in some way, shape, or form, when that person and that client already has the emotion. You don't need to bring yours into it. All you need to bring is your knowledge. And if you don't have the knowledge base, bring someone in or go find it. Because I would say that anyone in this room, if you have the confidence and the knowledge base, no one would be able to beat you out on a $45 million listing. I can guarantee that, because some of the people that have those listings, I'm like, I wouldn't hire them for the life of me.
I'm also really surprised when I'm showing houses that are over $1 million, how crappy the photos are sometimes, how little they're staged, and how poorly they're represented.
Shocking.
It hurts my feelings to show them. Like, I'm so sorry. They should have probably cleaned this, whatever. And they did.
But you know what? That agent portrays themselves as the person, that luxury agent, and someone believed them. Why? Because they have the confidence to show up across the table and tell them they're going to sell their house. And it's confidence. It's honestly confidence. When you show up that way, someone's like, okay, and then you could be totally lying, right? I mean, I know there's so many agents that don't know what they're doing, and they get the business because they have the most gigantic ego I've ever seen in my entire life. And people like that sometimes, right? And then they end up firing that person, and then it gets listed again. So be the first one. Anything else? Okay, wants and needs. What's new listings? What's buyers?
I have a couple pre-lists.
Go for it.
I have the 4-bedroom, 3-bath. It's Wayzata Schools. It's right by Imperial Hills, Green Tree. Coming maybe 2 weeks. Should be just under 500, maybe like 485, I think. So I have that, and then I have another one in New Hope. It's 3 legal bedrooms. The 2 bedrooms downstairs both need egress, but it could be a 5-bedroom. Everything is done and finished. That'll be in the 3s, low 3s. I'm meeting with them on Monday to talk about price. They're moving out of state, so we're talking price and timeline for them, but they already have a job lined up. So I have both of those.
Okay. Anyone else? Rick.
I need help with an open house, brand new listing. It's right down the street in Woodbury. So that's the one caveat, but it's going live on Friday, and we're doing open house Saturday. It's a single family single family attached villa townhouse, 350. It should sell, and it should sell Saturday, hopefully at the open. It should be, it's a good one.
So I really like the point of we all laughed. We're like, oh, Woodbury. And I'm gonna ask you, are we in a position in any of our businesses where we would not take an open house, a buyer, or a listing in Woodbury? Because if you are, awesome. If you are not, I would hope that you're all talking to Rick about who's gonna do that open, and maybe he could have multiple opens, because right now I feel like there's opportunity that is all around, and it doesn't matter necessarily location. So it's just a point of like, yes, no one wants to go to Woodbury, and I know that there's opportunity there.
And the point is that we're at the end of the amount of business we can handle at this very moment, which is a huge blessing. And I'm taking listings in Woodbury. So
Yeah.
that's it.
All right, anything else?
I've got a couple listings next week, probably next Friday, Golden Valley, 4-bed, 4-bath, 3-car, super cool house, remodeled everywhere, probably 7-ish, give or take. Should know that price today or tomorrow. Buffalo, 425, single family, 6-bed technically, and that's not just fluff. 6-bed, 4-bath, 3-car. That'll be probably early August, but I'm probably going to push to do some pre-market stuff. And then Chanhassen, Chan Schools, 425, 4-bed, 2-bath, split entry, right off Galpin, right between downtown Chan and downtown Excelsior.
Awesome. Anything else?
We have one. We do. Hi, this is Wendy. We're on our way back from a listing appointment in Rosemont. We've got a 4-bed, 2-bath, 4-level split, and they're moving out of state, and we're getting it ready to go on market. But if you have anyone looking down there, we'd love to talk to you.
Awesome. All right. Otherwise, if you,
I've got
oh,
one. I've got 10 acres of residential land, medium density in Rogers School District. 5 to 11 units per acre, ideal for townhome development.
okay,
800.
5,000 per acre.
awesome. All right, send those also to Lydia, and we'll get an email out later in the day. Otherwise, have an awesome day, and thanks for showing up.